We have a little more for your ears only. I'm David Alpern.
I'm Catherine Herzog with this news quote. It's too bad this is such a big deal. It's too bad our society isn't further along. That was NASA astronaut Sally Ride on making headlines as America's first woman in space. After 2 shuttle missions and work on 2 shuttle explosion investigations, Ride became a dedicated science educator and role model. She died last week of pancreatic cancer at age 61. Now this.
In the darkest days of the Civil War, we had leaders who understood that making college a national priority was too important to be ignored. Sadly, the day before that anniversary, July 1st, 53 days from today, we risked breaking faith with that vision when Stafford student loan interest rates double from 3.4% to 6.8%.
Democratic Congressman Joe Courtney of Connecticut turned to history to warn against an impending rise in federal student loan rates. In the end, the partisan divide over funding was bridged with a compromise involving corporate pension calculations and reduced tax deductions. But a larger problem with student loans remains, and the threat of potentially millions of students defaulting on loans is now stirring talk of another crisis at least as serious as the recent subsidized mortgage mess.
Already, student defaults have reached close to 9%, the same rate at which the mortgage meltdown began. And if larger numbers of students start missing payments, the losses could compromise the government's ability to lend, which would mean big problems for colleges and universities. Graduates dutifully paying off major education debts also feel frozen out of the home buying market, previously a major engine of the U.S. economy. These and related issues were addressed in a recent Boston Globe op-ed essay by Bob Hildreth, founder of Families United in Educational Leadership, or FUEL, which helps low-income families save and plan for their kids to attend college. And for your ears only, Bob Hildreth joins us now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Talk more about the amount of student debt already out there and the potential outcomes if large numbers of students begin to default.
Sure. It's the fastest growing debt in America. And the amount, which has been in the press quite a bit lately, is $1 trillion of debt outstanding. In fact, it grows so fast that it's now $1.1 trillion of debt since March. The potential outcome, if large numbers of students begin to default, is that we'll reverse that. We'll have less ability to lend, because $1 trillion is a huge amount of money, which if the government had to cover because of a default, would leave a big hole in the government finances just when they're trying to close holes.
Not only is the debt a crushing burden on millions of young Americans, you write, but colleges are equally at risk. Explain the risk to them.
Yes, this is the part that my op-ed focused on and is not fully understood right now. The $1 trillion that we talked about is not only the amount that students have to pay back, but it's the amount that went to colleges who are the direct beneficiary of student loan proceeds to pay for all their costs. This has created a large dependency among colleges, just about all of our colleges, public and private, on this flow. And if anything happened to interrupt this flow, there is no plan B. There is no ability to replace that debt with other sources of funds.
But you say college administrators stand firm that student loans are not their problem since they have already received and spent the money. Can they so easily pass the buck or lack of bucks to the government and private lenders?
I've talked to many college presidents about this issue, and I'm not sure whether they're kidding me or whether they just never had any courses in banking. But just about all of them say, I don't want to hear about the college debt issue. It's owed to the government, not to me. It's similar to not understanding the mortgage crisis of 2008. Of course they're on the hook. For many tuition-dependent schools, they now get 1/3 to 1/2 of their tuition paid for through student loan proceeds. College presidents have to report on many ratios and indices to their boards about how their tutorship of the finances is going. There's no mention of the student loan dependency ratio.
What can we learn from how California has reduced spending on higher education and how it relates to the growing student debt issue?
Last year, California reduced their transfer payments to their colleges by $750 million, which meant that for the first time, California, because of its financial crisis, made the colleges more dependent on their own tuition rather than transfers from the state capital. What's going on in California is two interesting examples. UCLA Business School, with a huge endowment, looks at UCLA, the whole college, with a much smaller endowment, and they say, bye. They're leaving UCLA. They want to go out on their own. They don't want to be part of the chaos of the California public system. Or then you go to Governor Brown, who says if the tax increase does not occur in November, he will have no option to close one of the campuses. So you could find University of California at Santa Barbara or another one like that closed.
Bob Hildreth founded Families United in Educational Leadership, or FUEL, which helps low-income families to save and plan for their children to attend college.
Quote from the news, effective policing and constitutional policing go hand in hand. That was Attorney General Eric Holder on an agreement for reform of the New Orleans Police Department based on a Justice Department report that concluded, quote, the ability of a police department to protect the community it serves is only as strong as the relationship it has with that community. And this has been For Your Ears Only.